All right, we are breaking in with an update in the Crystal Rogers case.
Jurors have reached a sentencing decision for Brooks Houck and Joseph Lawson, who they convicted this afternoon on all counts.
Alexis Matthews has been outside the courtroom for us today, and inside Madison Elliott, we joined them in Bowling Green outside the Warren County Courthouse. Ladies?
Jennifer, Rick, it seems like it took these jurors mere minutes to come to this recommendation for Brooks Houck and Joseph Lawson, who were found guilty on all charges, notably Houck's in the murder of Crystal Rogers in Madison. What is the verdict that they're reaching now with the sentencing phase?
So the jury just made the recommendation both for Joey Lawson and Brooks Houck. For Brooks Houck, they recommended on the first charge, that is for murder, a life term. For the second charge, tampering with physical evidence, they recommended 5 years in prison. These are to be served consecutively, so one after the other. For Joey Lawson, for the conspiracy to commit murder, they recommended 20 years in prison. And for the second charge of tampering with physical evidence, they recommended 5 years in prison. That is to also to be served consecutively, meaning one after the other. There will be a final sentencing date, so the judge will take these recommendations, he'll think about them, and that final sentencing date is August 21st, and that's when we'll learn what their sentence will be. So both have to serve about 85%, according to Kentucky state law, 85% of their sentence to be eligible for parole. So once they serve that 85%, we could see Joey Lawson up for parole maybe sooner than his 20-year sentence as well.
I was just looking at some of your notes that you were sending us after you came out from being inside of the courtroom, and this was the first time I heard lead prosecutor Shane Young mention that Crystal Rogers' murder was premeditated, not only naming Houck, but his mother and his brother. Talk to me about that.
Yes, he did mention all three of them together, and did use the words premeditated when talking after both the defense presented in front of the jury, asking for their recommendations. And yes, he said this was premeditated. They planned to kill her. They planned to get rid of her. These are some of the things that they said in the courtroom. I wrote down some of the things they were saying, saying we believe the plan started in May, and they asked somebody to get rid of her. 10 years last Friday, they said, marked officially since she went missing, believe July 3rd, that would have been last Friday, marks officially 10 years since she went missing. They said Joey Lawson did it for financial gain. He said that Houck paid both his father, Steve Lawson, and Joey Lawson $50,000 to help take care of this. And they said Houck did this because he wanted control or custody of his son Eli that he had with Crystal Rogers. So they said a lot in these last moments. And of course, we won't learn their final sentencing until August 21st. But we saw Houck's mother. She was actually sitting right behind me. And after they made the sentencing recommendations, before they sent this final sentencing hearing, she left the room early before anybody else left the room. And Sherry Ballard is still inside right now. And now we're just waiting till August 21st.
And I actually saw Rosemary when she came out here into the hallway. I think she was just escorted maybe around the corner. The bathroom might be down here. Just a very stoic face, really no emotion. And I feel like that's kind of been what the Houck family has showcased, at least us. And they could really be saving face. We don't know these people personally, but they are not giving the same, any kind of reaction, very much countering what the Rogers family is showing with their emotion and their tears and their hugs right now. But what I do want to ask you, Madison, is what were some of the defense's, I guess, arguments when it came to the jury recommendation? I think I've read that you told us Joseph Lawson's attorneys mentioned that, you know, he did have a drug problem, and they mentioned Houck was a successful businessman and had never been in trouble prior to this. Can you elaborate a little bit?
Yes, well, as it comes to Joey Lawson, they did say that he did have a drug addiction, and one thing they mentioned is that his father was an alcoholic, and that his father was not a good role model for him. He didn't have a good role model growing up, and that he is also wheelchair bound after an accident. He's a quadriplegic, and they said that also makes things more difficult for him. And so that was the reasoning for giving him their original recommendation recommendation. They were asking the jury to give Joseph Lawson 10 years in prison for conspiracy to murder and then 5 years in prison for the tampering with physical evidence. And they were asking for those sentences to be served concurrently, which means at the same time. So he would have spent, what they were asking the jury is a total of 10 years in prison and then eligible for parole in about 8.5 years. But that is not, of course, what the jury ruled. They are giving him 20 years for that first charge versus the 10 years that the defense asked for. And they did give him 5 years for that second charge of tampering with physical evidence, but this again being served consecutively and not concurrently. Now, as far as Brooks Houck go, they say that one of the reasons that they asked for 20-year sentence. Originally, his defense team asked for 20 years recommendation to be sentenced to prison. And they thank the jury, saying, we appreciate that you've all been here. They say the defense sees the facts differently than they did, but they respected their decision. However, they said either way, Brooks will be going to prison for a very long time. And they mentioned he could be eligible for parole, but they said don't assume any sentence he gets that he wouldn't serve. They mentioned how he didn't have prior criminal history, saying that this is a unique case because of that. They said before there's this law in the state, and they said it comes down to when they can let the jury know a person's prior criminal history. And so they said now that they're in the sentencing phase, they're allowed to let people know their prior criminal history. And they said in his case, he didn't have prior criminal history, and that's what makes this case unique, they said. And that's why they are asking for not as much time, or asked for not as much time, saying he had that no prior criminal history. But of course, as we saw, that they did recommend a life term for murder charge and then 5 years for the physical tampering of evidence charge to be served consecutively. And we were in the courtroom, and the sheriffs were there ready to take him into custody, and he'll be held on no bond until his hearing on August 21st.
Thank you, Madison. If you're just joining us, the jury has recommended life in prison for Brooks Houck, who was found guilty of the murder of Crystal Rogers, and 20 years for his co-defendant, Joseph Lawson, who was guilty of conspiracy, and both men found guilty of tampering with physical evidence, which marks really the conclusion of what has been a long 10-day second trial, and I would imagine even longer slither of justice that this Rogers family is getting today, knowing that the person who in their mind has always been responsible for Rogers' disappearance will now not just learn his fate, but is headed off to prison. And of course, as you mentioned, the judge will have the final say on that formal sentencing next month. And Steve Lawson, who was the first man to be convicted in relation to the Rogers case, will also be formally sentenced next month. We'll go ahead and send it back to you all. I believe right now we're just waiting to hear possibly from some officials, attorneys in this case. Obviously want to hear from the Rogers family. If the Houck family will say anything, we want to make sure we talk to everyone who has been a part of this trial and sat in court day in and day out. But that marks the conclusion of the second Crystal Rogers murder trial, with both defendants guilty on all charges and life being recommended for the prime suspect, Brooks Houck.
All right, and the other thing you have to think about, Tommy Ballard, Crystal Rogers' dad, he spent the last 16 months of his life fighting to find who murdered his daughter. He died on November 19th of 2016. It sounds like the way it played out, Madison, that this is not over. They named Rosemary and Nick. Are we expecting indictments coming for them?
This is, and we're just hearing cheers in the hallway while you're asking that, Rick. He's asking about the fact that could more people be charged as far as the other unsolved cases, one being Tommy Ballard, Crystal Rogers' father, who was shot and killed just a year after her, and the person responsible for that has not been brought to light. But there has always been, at least the family has mentioned to us, it appears there's a connection between the two. Now, that's a question that only prosecutors can answer. And will that answer, will we get that today? it waits to be seen, Rick, but I believe that Rogers' case and these convictions will begin to open doors for more of those Bardstown unsolved murders to hopefully be in the process of being solved. Now with that we have, co-conspirators in the Houck family being named, and we have these convictions under our belt. I think it just waits to be seen what the prosecution will do from here on out.
And I will say that has not been mentioned when they were doing these sentencing hearings. None of that was really touched upon. He named them as co-conspirators, but as far as their fate, that is to be seen.
And Alexis and Madison, I know that you haven't had a chance to talk to Crystal Rogers' family. This has obviously been a very heartbreaking 10 years. In your perspective, how did they handle the guilty verdicts today?
They're asking how did the Rogers family handle the guilty verdict. Where both of us were inside the courtroom when the verdict was reached, and I know we heard at least, the sniffling of tears. Like I mentioned, the judge asked for no outbursts, so they could not do too much inside the courtroom, but you could just feel the weight from that side of the room, the prosecution side, of we finally got justice. Meanwhile, on the other side, it was just dead silence on the defense. Can you agree?
I would say so, Alexis, because I looked over to Sherry Ballard, Crystal's mother, to see how she reacted, and it was tears. And in fact, during the sentencing hearing, one of Crystal's daughters took the stand to talk to the jury before they made their recommendation, and it was a very emotional testimony she gave, saying her mother will never see her go to college, graduate from college, get engaged, get married, get her first job, and have all those milestones with her in her life. And that was a family member who spoke today, and it was very powerful and a lot of emotion on their side versus on the side behind Brooks Houck and Joey Lawson. Much different, just very quiet. Not a lot of emotion from either Brooks or Joey Lawson, but you could feel the emotion of Crystal's family. And we came out of the courtroom at a few different points, and people came out and just, especially after that guilty verdict, they were hugging, they were crying, people rejoicing, Crystal's family, to finally get that guilty verdict after 10 years of waiting. And that's what the prosecution said too when they were speaking to the jury before their sentencing recommendation, is they've been waiting a decade for this verdict. What they knew in their hearts this whole time, a jury found guilty today. So very emotional for them here today, and I'm sure they'll be here August 21st as well, as they wait to see what happens and what the judge, as he takes into consideration what the jury here has recommended today.
Now, did the judge mention if that sentencing will also be moved back to Nelson County as Joseph Lawson's sentencing is?
That they did not say, so that might be a question we need to follow up and get some answers on, and hopefully we can hear from lawyers on either side today and get that question answered for people as well.
As you all know, the high-profile nature and publicity of this case is why it was moved here to Bowling Green in Warren County, but at least Joseph Lawson's sentencing will be back in Nelson County. And I would only imagine, but we obviously will confirm, but expected that Houck and Lawson's formal sentencing will also be back in Bardstown.
All right, thank you all. Job well done. We're waiting to hear from Sherry Ballard, of course. That poor woman has been through it the last 10 years. Crystal Rogers would have been 45 years of age.
She missed a lot with her growing, her kids growing up. She missed all of that. Not to mention her extended family also missed out on seeing all of her milestones as well.
So there you have it. Brooks Houck was sentenced to life in prison on the murder charge, plus 5 years on the tampering of evidence. Joseph Lawson got 20 years and 5 for tampering. His father was, recommended. His father got 17 years recommended. He will be in court in Nelson County on the 6th. The 21st is when we'll get formal sentencing for Brooks Houck and Joseph Lawson.
Now a total of 3 people convicted in the death and disappearance of Crystal Rogers. We'll have much more on WLKY.com and starting at 5 o'clock. Now.